Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Robots and Red Tape. As always, I am your host, Nick Schutt, and just really want to take a moment to shout out all the fans and everybody that listens to the podcast. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate your support, appreciate your engagement, and really hope that you're getting value out of this. Like myself and my guest are. Happy today to be hosting my friend Ruben Miessen. Ruben, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks, Nick, for hosting me.
Yeah, thank you for being here, man. I know you're very, very busy and things are very hectic for you. So if you don't mind, for everybody that doesn't hasn't had the opportunity to know you yet, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background and kind of how you got here, man. What's your story?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm Ruben. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO at LegalFly. LegalFly is one of the leading legal AI scale-ups focused on automating all of the boring legal stuff, the commodity legal work for corporate teams. We are headquartered in Belgium. We have offices in headquarters in Ghent, offices in London and in Dubai, and then we're now about to open the US office, most likely in New York soon. Personally, I have a background in product, a very strong background in product, having been responsible for shipping a lot of the product initiatives in completely different industries, including the dating industry at
Hmm.
Tinder. But at LegalFly, I am, especially the last 2 years, I'm purely focused on anything go-to-market, anything that has to do with our key clients, key partners, or investors.
That's fantastic, man. And congratulations on all your success and the fascinating career you've had so far, and all your success at LegalFly, and being across multiple. Is it near you're coming into your fourth country now? Super
Yeah.
exciting to expand out, and obviously you're doing something right, man. So obviously, yeah, you mentioned, a whole bunch of different products, including a stint at Tinder and a few other places, and then now you founded LegalFly. That transition, like, what did you see within the space that made you believe that legal was the place you wanted to go, and really, why did you decide to go the way you went?
Yeah, so it all started almost exactly 3 years ago, to be honest. So we were first working at Tinder, completely different industry. Had an amazing team at Tinder that I was able to hire myself, where we were leading quite some of the AI initiatives that at Tinder they were working on. And around a similar time, ChatGPT was released. It was like a couple of months before, so we were all using ChatGPT to assist us in writing product proposals within Tinder, as a sparring partner as well on certain IDs, even for coding, where now the team is very heavily using Cloud Code. Back then was using ChatGPT as well. But the more we used ChatGPT, the more we were amazed by the possibilities of a Gen AI native solution. Um, but at the same time, we were also getting quite frustrated with how legal workflows or legal processes at an enterprise organization like Match Group, yeah, how it works. And it happened on weekly legal meetings with the legal team that I had to pitch why in a certain product proposal we wanted to do something in a certain way. But as every single time, as soon as legal was involved, the project got delayed or slowed down with 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks or potentially even longer. So what we started to see within the organization is that whenever possible, any business manager or product manager would bypass legal whenever they could. And if there
Mhm.
is one thing that Gen AI can automate, then it is actually to give textual advice or generate quite a lot of textual output based on a lot of precedents or yeah, the textual based training data. So that's why we felt pretty quickly on that if we can build a ChatGPT that's able to speak legalese and we
Mhm.
can then offer such a solution to those business teams within enterprises to unblock, to solve the legal bottleneck, that would be quite an amazing venture and quite an amazing solution that would help a lot of people and a lot of businesses.
Absolutely, man. And as somebody that has been frustrated by dealing with a lot of lawyers and their legal speak and legalese through my entrepreneurial career, I can understand why you would want to attack that and want to approach that problem. Because of course, lawyers are there to slow everything down, and also they need to justify their existence as well, which is part of what they're doing. And so, what do you think that you understood early that others didn't in legal AI because you didn't come from like a legal background where you worked at law firms, like having that
Yeah.
outsider's approach to the industry? How did that help you? And conversely, how do you think it hindered you?
I think it helped us on a couple of different levels. I think the first one is if you look at my co-founders, we're a founding team of four, which is quite sizable. We all have a product engineering background, so none of the founders was biased by any legal knowledge or legal experience. Uh, we're complete legal dummies, actually, which is great because LegalFly is built for the business users, the business people at those organizations to help them get legal work done. So the way how we looked at designing a legal AI solution was to build a solution that's highly accurate, that is legally trained, but that anyone with a non-legal background that is in a product or in a business position, an HR position, a sales
Hmm.
position, doesn't matter, that they can reap the benefits of having a highly trained legal solution that provides legal advice, that can do legal contracting. So that is, I think, the great thing, is that we looked at it with a completely different lens. And as a result of that, given we didn't have the legal knowledge in-house, we also worked with dozens of design partners, which were our earliest clients, to advise us on what they would exactly need a solution to be capable of doing for them to save an insane amount of hours of time and money
Hmm.
as opposed to otherwise go to external legal providers. So I think the first benefit there was that we looked at it from a business, from a user lens, that had nothing to do with being a legal professional ourselves. I think that's the first thing. Secondly, we decided to build a solution for corporates and for corporate
Hmm.
teams and not for law firms, which was very unique, especially like 3 years ago. Everyone
Yep.
was focused on let's build a solution like a Harvey, Legora, Dell built for the law firms. While very quickly we felt that it's a conflict of interest with the business model that the law firms are operating on, the billable hour model. It's based upon being able to bill as many hours as you potentially can. And with AI, we're creating such an efficiency, especially on the commodity legal work that's being done, that the work can be done in a fraction of the time. A contract can be reviewed or drafted in a couple of minutes, while otherwise it would have taken hours. So we didn't, it didn't make sense to sell a legalized solution to law firms. We rather wanted to focus on the end client, which is the corpus that is involving the law firm. So that's also a different decision and a different route we decided
Hmm.
to and that today has been even a stronger focus. If you look at our total AR, 97% of our AR is derived from corporates, only 3% is derived from law firms.
That makes a lot of sense, and they're also, I would assume that they're the ones that are incentivized to bring legal costs down in a way that law firms are not, right? And I've also, I've been thinking a lot about like how are law firms actually saving us money while they are billing by the hour. They're not incentivized to do so. They're incentivized to bill as many hours as they possibly can. And like
Yeah.
not every lawyer is that way. Yeah, there are some good ones out there that don't, but I've seen friends of mine that get charged for they try to charge for internal meetings about their bills, things like that. And charging four figures an hour, right, for things like that. But as you mentioned, I think that there's a lot of efficiencies that AI is offering within the legal space, but the legal costs aren't really dropping proportionally. Is that a law firm? Is that because law firms aren't incentivized? Like, what do you think about that dichotomy of where we sit right now?
Yeah, I think definitely the model is about to change. The law firms are more and more uh, under pressure by their clients requesting them to productize their services.
Hmm.
So I definitely think we'll see a massive shift towards law firms moving from a billable hour model to productizing plenty of those services and charging fixed fees to get the work done, especially
Hmm.
because clients are starting to apply pressure on the law firm. They have more experience working with AI themselves, and are also explaining to the firm that they will not work with a law firm that is not using AI in the first place and that is then not billing for the output rather than for the work that went into it. So I give it a couple more years, I think 2 to 3 years to be honest, and I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
almost every law firm will work with a different model, more
Yeah,
focused on billing for the output rather
absolutely.
than
And
performing the work.
within corporate teams, I know that a lot of what you're looking at and focusing on or it's like automating like the commoditized lower level
Yeah.
legal work, right? The document review, document generation, things like that. What percentage of legal work do you think really falls into that category? And where do you think the lawyers bring most of their value within an internal like corporate structure and a corporate environment?
But it's a good question. It depends a little bit on the industry. It also depends a little bit whether it's a small company, it's a mid-market company, or it's an enterprise. But from what we're seeing with our clients, it's between 80 and 85% of their work that is actually a commodity legal work that could easily be automated with a
Hmm.
legal solution. So that also means that we do expect the legal spend from those organizations to go down by 80%, and just a fraction of that will need to be reallocated to a legal AI solution. So we'll be saving them quite a lot of money in the
Hmm.
process, reducing their reliance on costly external counsel. The use cases vary quite broadly as well. There are agents that we've developed that can automate contract reviews. We have agents for drafting legal documents. We have agents for due diligence. There are agents to answer basically any legal question that you may have, to answer legal queries, which is the most used
Hmm.
agent actually. I think around 70% of our usage is based on an agent that is answering any legal question they have. Instead of just writing an email to the legal team, ask it to LegalFly first, and then the legal team will only deal with the more complex scenarios, with the strategic questions. Yeah, but it goes pretty broad. Like when we're selling to insurance firms, for example, we're quite active in banking and insurance. Even claims handling is accelerated significantly with LegalFly, where those claim handlers, they have an internal quota of handling between, I was with one of our clients last week, where they were handling between 100 and 150 claims a month. Thanks to LegalFly, they're now handling between 600 and 700 claims a month. So with a much smaller team as well, they will be able to handle a much higher volume of claims
Hmm.
as well. It doesn't need to be, when we're talking about legal AI, we're not just looking at the typical legal work, we're also looking at other work that's not necessarily in the legal domain, but that is touching upon legal. For example, handling claims for an insurance business. For another client is the HR department who signed with us, where basically any complaints that are coming in,
Hmm.
they're employing thousands of people all across Europe, any complaints that are coming in, we're pre-assessing them. We're assessing if the claim is complete, but also whether, if, for example, someone got sanctioned or fired, whether the
Hmm.
foundations of that process were actually correct, and if the process that the company undertook to let go of that employee, if that also was correct in relation to the local jurisdiction where it took place. So there are a lot of different use cases where you can use a legal AI solution for even for non-legal
Absolutely.
teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And things where you're touching upon legal work is super, I mean, that's super important. That's also a lot of different things as opposed
Yeah.
to just supporting a law firm, right? There's a lot of things that touch, legal, like the legal world that most people wouldn't think of, right? Aside from like contracts.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Another feature, for example, that we shipped to one of our clients, which was to Faye Group, which is the largest insurance firm in Luxembourg, is Legal Radar, which is an horizon scanning feature. And it's
Hmm.
actively tracking the legal landscape and any changes within the legal landscape, like new regulations, for example. So as soon as in Luxembourg, within a specific industry, we spot that there is an update in the regulation, we actually warn our clients, we inform them, and we also run a
Hmm.
business impact assessment on all of their documents. And where needed, we will actually propose red lines or changes to those contracts to make them compliant with the
That's
new.
awesome. Yeah, no, that's that. And then I assume all those proposed changes get floated to the legal department, and then legal reviews all of that because that's what they should be doing, is opposed to generating all of that, right?
Yep, yep, exactly.
Mhm.
So it's saving them an insane amount of time.
Yeah, man, and I know you touched on you're building agents instead of like a lot of companies are focused on building tools, right? But you're focused on building agents. Can you define what that difference is for folks, and why does the difference matter to people?
Yeah, so it's a good point. So we started in the very beginning of LegalFly, we started building tools where the legal professionals, they can use LegalFly to automate a contract review, for example, but it's completely, yeah, the human is completely in the driver's seat, but not only in the driver's seat, the human is actually steering the car. Let's compare it to a car where the legal professional is holding the wheel, they're changing gears, and they're riding on the track themselves. When we build an
Hmm.
agent, it's basically a car that is capable of driving autonomously, but still has a driver inside. So human in the loop, whenever needed, the driver can interfere, but the car itself is driving on the track in the most efficient way by itself. and we could have hundreds of cars or thousands of cars on those tracks all driving at the same time. So that's what we refer to when we build an agent. An agent is capable of automating a very specific workflow based on the
Mhm.
company's playbook or guidelines, but run it autonomously. And then the question also is, to what extent would you like to have a human in the loop for more riskier contracts, for example, or workflows? We will
Mhm.
definitely want it, so that is possible. But the agents we're building are actually capable to, over time, replace the need of having actually a legal professional perform that task manually. So it saves up even more time and it frees up even more time for strategic work for the legal team.
Absolutely. No, and I know you've also, I appreciate that. That's excellent. Excellent differentiation there, Ruben. And I know you've mentioned, a couple of times that you're deploying across a number of different agents, a number of different verticals, right? Whether it's, banking, insurance,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of them, man. And obviously, like you and I both know that data within organizations is very is some areas it's very, some places it's very messy, some places it's cleaner. How are you? Like, how are you structuring all of the information that you intake within the system? Are you using like some kind of ontology or taxonomy layer to kind of help your agents define and understand what some of the more specifics about industries and you start talking for different verticals? How does that work in your system?
Yeah, so as soon as a document is processed on LegalFly, whether it's uploaded manually or whether it's through one of the integrations, we have quite some
Mhm.
integrations available also through MCP. The first step is that we vectorize the document, but in the process of vectorization, we also run an anonymization process first, actually, to make sure that the sensitive data is redacted
Mhm.
pre-LLM processing, because we're working with a lot of banks or insurance firms that are not comfortable for the LLMs to actually get access to their client data, to the sensitive data in those agreements. So we take it out first, and then the AI agent reads through the entire document and starts labeling it. So there's quite some metadata that we're adding. We're adding the languages used, we're adding the jurisdiction that's applicable, we're adding the document type, and there's a lot of information being added when that document is stored as a vector in the vector database. So whenever then there is a specific query or a specific question that is asked by the user, when the agent goes to look into the vector database, he will take all of that context into account to be able to
Mhm.
locate a specific document or file in a more efficient manner. And as a result, we had clients actually relying on LegalFly to retrieve documents in a matter of seconds or less. Basically, where otherwise, if they would have looked for that specific document in their CLM system, it would have taken them a couple of minutes to be able to figure out where the document, where the document sits. So there's a lot of
Oh, that's
context
awesome.
during the
Hmm.
process of that document.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're using the agent to actually to tag the document and then bring an user in, because I know how tedious data tagging is manually, or at least I've heard that's not something that I'm tedious work is not my forte. So, it's that's really interesting. And then, no, man, that's fantastic. And then obviously, so you're using the organization's own data and verbiage to train the agents that work in that specific industry and in that specific company. Is that correct?
100%. The only thing is I will be a bit careful with using the word training here
Mm.
because we do train, for example, on documents or data we gather from partners where documents are being anonymized. First, we pay the partner, then we get millions of documents that we can use for training, but we never train actually on client data.
Mm.
Of course, within a specific client environment, the agents are learning based on
Hmm.
the references or the context of those documents for that specific client, but we're not training the LLMs based on
Right.
that. We only do that
Yeah,
on
yeah. I meant training your agents, not training the underlying models that you're using to process everything, right? Because I would assume you're using one of the larger ones or some or several of the larger ones out there as the engine to power a lot of the agent training. Is that correct?
yeah, so we're LLM agnostic. We always want to
Hmm.
make sure that we can leverage the best LLMs for any given use case. So today, LegalFly is leveraging 5 LLMs. We use models from OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, and then Mistral for quite some European clients.
Hmm.
We can make or we can change the setup for a specific client, especially for some European clients. They have a strong preference for using Mistral and Anthropic. But generally speaking, we're doing that cocktail for our clients. We're doing it on a daily basis by benchmarking
Hmm.
um, every single model on hundreds of different tests and looking at the quality of the output because the space is evolving at a rapid pace, right? So we also want to make sure that we stay on top of it, ahead of it, and that we can advise our clients on for which
Hmm.
specific use case, which model is used. And you will see that the agent that's responsible for drafting versus the agent that's responsible for Legal Radar or Horizon scanning feature, most likely they will actually be powered by a different LLM behind it that
Hmm.
excels at performing that specific task.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I use different models for different things all the time also. So totally get that. And how do you actually measure productivity gains within your clients? Like, are you running A/B testing? Are you like observing real user behavior? Like, what are the actual, tools that you use to measure that? Because I've talked to a lot of people that are don't actually have real data behind how their productivity gains are at, whether they're actually are, whether they're real or not. Like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there around marketing a lot of these products. I'm not saying that's you, Ruben. I'm just kind of like, how do you actually measure that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think there are two main ways in how we do it. The first one is we track usage data of the platform in an anonymized way as well. So, for example, for a client, we can assess how many contract reviews that have taken place on these specific document types with documents of a specific length or complexity. For example, we can then also check how many red lines have been executed by the legal professional on the document, how many legal queries have been answered, and how many due diligence processes have been completed, for example. And then per client in the customer dashboard, we can set some parameters. For example, what is the hourly rate of their external counsel? How much time are they spending on average on reviewing such specific documents? So when we onboard the client, we try to, in the discovery process during the onboarding, try to get the information from these parameters. We add it into the customer portal specifically for that client, and then we can share a weekly or monthly report with our champions at the client that gives them insight as well into, first of all, how LegalFly was used. And even if
Hmm.
usage is not exactly where we would like it to be for a specific client, it helps them to then re-engage the users internally to make sure that everyone is actively using LegalFly and doing the effort, especially in the beginning, because it's a completely new way of doing legal work, doing the effort to get to know the platforming and get to know how those agents operate. But then we can always include that a business case tied to it based on those parameters that we add in the beginning. We try to collaborate with clients on getting data from their teams themselves, because most
Hmm.
of them, before that they commit to do a further rollout within LegalFly, they will build an internal business case, and we try to be involved so we can help, but also to get an idea of the ROI, the efficiency that we manage to generate for them. We're always aiming, to be honest, to realize an ROI of at least 10x on the LegalFly license cost, which I'm
Hmm.
quite proud to say that I think for all of our clients, we've been able to achieve these numbers. But for a lot of clients are not comfortable with sharing the internal business case with us,
Hmm.
where really I got the feedback a couple of times, like, look, guys, as soon as you know the impact of LegalFly on our organization, you guys will use this in negotiating, like the renewal, for example, or when we would like to have more seats, and it will be a disadvantage actually to share it with you. So we're happy with the service, but we keep the ROI or the business impact internal, which, to be honest, is a good sign, but
Hmm.
it's sometimes. So that's why we focus on having our own dashboarding within our own customer portal based on the
Hmm.
parameters we learned from the discovery process, and then we can already make a guess, make an assumption based on usage, how much time and how much money we save them if they would have involved external counsel on that work.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And having the external counsel piece as as a benchmark to measure against is always helpful. You think about work though, do you think that like the future of work within white collar organizations is humans using tools, or do you think it's more like humans managing fleets of AI agents?
It's a good question. Let's talk about our engineering team maybe for a second because I think
Hmm.
it's a good. So I very well remember it was around 6 months ago. It wasn't that long ago, where our engineering team was still working in the old traditional way of writing code, right? Like we
Hmm.
have an amazing engineering team of around 12, no, 13 developers, all
Hmm.
very senior. They take a lot of pride into the code that they write themselves, but they
Hmm.
were writing almost everything manually.
Hmm.
Came to the point that we decided within the senior leadership team, look, we want to make sure that everyone in the organization is adopting AI for whatever work they do. We
Mm-hmm.
launched AI Frontrunners initiative, for example, where they even get rewarded in ASOP the more that they use AI to become more efficient. And at a certain point, we told the engineering team, like, look, guys, from now on, we don't want you to write a single line of code yourself. Every
Mm-hmm.
line of code that you write needs to be generated by AI. Here is a set of tools that we purchased. You can select which tools you prefer most. There is a strong preference for cloud code, which in the end the team indeed adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Every line of code needs to be written by such a by such an AI solution. There was quite some resistance at first, but I can tell you, Nick, I think 3, 4 weeks in,
Mm-hmm.
guys loved it. Like all of them loved it. And now they're all in the driver's seat of directing cloud code, basically to code for them. And they're becoming more the architects behind the agent that is writing the code for them. And it's working out very well. We're shipping insanely fast to the extent
Mm-hmm.
that we actually decided like we're about to kick off a next investment round. We'll continue to grow the company, but we'll more focus on growing the go-to-market teams because the product and engineering teams, they could ship even faster than the way they're doing today. We don't necessarily need a bigger team to ship more, push more out in a quicker format. And we're already doing 2 deployments a week now with new
Mm-hmm.
features.
That's
That's, I
awesome.
think, the beauty of it. That's what we're seeing with the engineering teams, but that's what we're going to see, I think, across the industry. We see it in legal already. We see it in the claims teams. We see it in the credit teams that we're selling into. We're seeing in the procurement teams where all of that manual work,
Mm-hmm.
agents take care of it. And we just need specialized people overseeing the work that the agents are doing and correcting it or approving it where necessary.
Mm-hmm. No, man, that makes a lot of sense. And what do with the increased efficiencies, absolutely. Why wouldn't you want to do that? I have heard that, and this it may be a little dated, Ruben, but I know that like when you're writing code in areas where there's a lot of like data, right? Where it's a well-known area. It's a lot easier for different coding engines, whether it's Claude Code or whoever, to write that code. But when you start dealing on edge cases, that's where these tools seem to, because obviously it's like it's only looking at historical data, and doing something new is more difficult. Do you see that those tools fall off when they're doing that, in or like their performance falls when they are working in you know more niche areas or on in edge cases as opposed to more routine areas?
Um, Today, to be honest, I would say we're definitely not concerned about it because those
Hmm.
tools are evolving at an extremely rapid pace as well.
Yeah.
It even comes to the point that so whenever an engineer has completed its work, there are a couple of code reviews that need to take place when a PR
Hmm.
being sent ready for review. And we always run an AI code review first, which is Cloud Code
Hmm.
doing a code review of all of the engineers. And Cloud Code is actually able to spot edge cases or scenarios where the engineer sometimes have missed it. So it's sometimes even the opposite way around that
Hmm.
it's uncovering things that that otherwise a human may have missed. The only thing I would say is that sometimes it could happen that proactively an engineering agent makes a decision to, for a specific integration, get a specific permission already enabled proactively while it's not necessarily needed and then it's not really used in the code. So like those things
Hmm.
need to be checked, I think I would say. But overall, I think we're quite impressed with how AI is not only impacting the legal industry, but also coding and plenty of other industries as well.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I really respect your choice, you guys' organizational choice to anonymize all the data before processing it, right? Which is super, super important.
Yeah.
And I know that not everybody makes that choice. Do you think that there are AI companies that are underestimating, how important trust in data governance is, especially within regulated industries, but just, at large?
Yeah, 100%. And the only thing that I'm happy about is I think a couple of months ago, so I think 6, 7 months ago, we were the only one. Then 6 months
Hmm.
ago, one of our competitors decided to do it as well. And then, yes, no, not yesterday, last week, I was at Legal Exchange in Germany, one of the biggest legal tech events in Germany. It was in Munich, where actually all of the biggest players announced in a panel that they're working on adding an anonymization module to their product. So I was quite happy, to be honest, to hear
Hmm.
from that because I think it should be an industry standard. It's almost like driving a car without a seatbelt. It doesn't make any sense. You don't want to leverage LLMs, which are very powerful, but you don't want to leverage them on non-anonymized, not redacted contracts that are containing some of the most sensitive data of your clients. You should always make sure it's redacted prior to LLM processing.
Absolutely, 100%. But I think that a lot of people don't understand the that anything you put into LLMs is not actually private. It's all out there. It's all being used in a whole bunch of different ways. And if you're not training them, if you're not paying for it, you're training the model, right? And I think that I've spoken with folks and have known folks that have uploaded important like proprietary information into into public systems, and then had that information pop out on like competitors' websites later on, 6 months later. So, um, excuse me, my allergies are killing me right now, man. But it's really fascinating to see the kind of battle between moving fast and privacy, which I think it's been going on within tech for a long time, and I think privacy is really not won a battle in a minute.
No, no, no. But it also depends who you're selling into. If you're selling to consumers, if you're selling into SMBs, mid-market, fine. But if you're selling to enterprise in highly regulated industries, it's a different story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know that yeah, how does what do you see as like enterprise grade AI? What does that actually mean? Especially for law departments, and how is that different from some of the LLMs out there, and some of these other more generic products?
Enterprise grade AI, I think there are a couple of pillars that are important. The first one I would say is data security.
Hmm.
The way our data is handled should be handled in a way that an enterprise at that scale, including all of the sensitive data, feels comfortable with. Secondly, to build a legal AI solution that is a good fit for the enterprise, you shouldn't, even if it's a legal solution, you definitely shouldn't just focus on solving the customer needs of the legal team. You should look at all of the other teams that are touching or collaborating with legal as well. Think about procurement, think about compliance. If it's an insurance firm, definitely claims. Think about the HR department, the commercial teams, and so on. Because you really want to make sure that you build an AI native workspace where all of those teams can collaborate and that the
Hmm.
legal team can oversee how the different teams are utilizing the legal AI solution. But yeah, it's quite important across the enterprise that that level of collaboration is in place.
Hmm.
Uh, Thirdly, I would say in terms of delivery, quite important as well for an enterprise to train their people and to adopt an AI solution. Apologies, it's quite different than an SMB doing the same. So
Hmm.
you definitely have delivery team set up for success to run an onboarding session across those different teams to be able to support them during their business hours, even outside of the business hours. Um,
hmm.
it's a different delivery model that comes
Yeah, man.
that.
No, 100%. And and obviously you're focused on those like large enterprise customers. And how do your deployments or do your deployments change based on the country that you're in, and their data privacy laws, or how because I know that the EU is different than the Middle East versus the US, and how do you kind of work your product? Does your product change depending on where it's deployed or no?
Good question. That definitely changes based on the regions, but what we always do is we always take the strictest rules and apply it to everyone, which I think is best practice anyway. So it may happen that, for example, in the States, the way how we handle data processing is much stricter than what is necessarily required, because in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, for example, I know when we're selling to the government, they're extremely strict, but then we change those processing workflows for all of the clients at once, so everyone
Hmm.
benefits. is making these changes. But they're also running on different servers, right? So like continental Europe has its own server, same as the UK, same as the US, same as in the Middle East. We even have two. We have a data center in the UAE, a data center in Saudi, because of the very
Hmm.
strict data sovereignty rules that they have as well. But we
Hmm.
make sure we have parity across all of the data centers, um, while adhering to all of the local rules in the different regions. Yeah.
No, man, that's absolutely fascinating. And yeah, is it as we look forward to over the next call it 5 years. I think anything past 2.5 is really kind of guessing at this point with the pace of change. Um, what do you think that the legal industry looks like, and how do you think that a lot of this, in-house work changes, and do what do you envision, this future we're moving towards looking like?
I think a lot is going to change. I think that's pretty clear. I think if you look at the legal service providers, the law firms, for example, I think they are currently revisiting their business model. It will take a little bit of time, but I definitely believe the billable hour model will go. They will productize these services, and I think a lot of the law firms that we've been chatting to as well, the structure of those organizations will change because do you still need, because it's very much based on a very hierarchical model where you have tons of junior associates, then you have a couple of associates, then the partners come in, and it's like it's do you still need an army of junior associates to do all of the groundwork on the case if you can have a couple of AI agents preparing it for you in a fraction of the time? That is, I
Hmm.
think, the question that a lot of those firms are also asking themselves. But then again, if their business is built upon all of those associates also billing for the work, how does that
Hmm.
impact the profitability of the firm? So it will definitely take some time, but by the change in the business model, I do also feel that the model where you have those enormous law firms with thousands of junior associates on a global scale, that will change. We see it
Hmm.
with the big four, with the consultancy firms as well. So I do expect quite some restructuring to happen at those organizations and to see much leaner law firms rise up or
Hmm.
uh, or be created. In legal tech itself, I think we should all buckle up for a massive consolidation of the market. We've already seen it, like bigger
Hmm.
players like Agora acquiring the smaller ones one by one. We've seen some players that have raised quite some money tumble over, like Robin AI, in the space as well. So the I would even dare to say that the space for us is less crowded today in legal AI than it was 1 year ago, because a lot of the companies that either started way before us realized that they can't face the wave of AI native legal AI companies, and they've exited the market or stopped their operations. And
Hmm.
a lot of the very smaller ones are now struggling to survive, so are leaving the market as well.
Awesome, and that's absolutely fascinating. One of the things that I wonder, and I'm inclined to agree with you about about agents replacing junior associates and things like that. I wonder what's going to happen to workforces over the next decade or so, as we look at less and less entry level jobs being competed over by more and more people. I think it's really going to be a really interesting piece of this is how do we make sure that we're training the workforce of the future at the same time, right? And where should we be focusing our skills?
Even at those corporates, right? Because I mean, do you still need some of our clients have a legal team of 200, 300 people?
Hmm.
Soon as we manage to automate a lot of that work, I mean, they're they're drowning in legal work, right? So they will very quickly be able to reallocate the people internally to different strategic tasks, but still, like the more and more advanced AI will become, you still
Hmm.
need, even if you're an enterprise, you still need a legal team of 200 people.
Hmm.
That's also something I think that we'll need to look at, the same as we've seen with our engineers. They're becoming more
Hmm.
architect of the workflows rather than doing the groundwork of that work themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, man. No, it's really, really, really interesting, man. What do you want folks to know about you and about LegalFly that are considering this that maybe you haven't had the chance to enunciate yet? And then what are some questions you wish I asked you, man, that I haven't?
Oof, that's a really good question. So, I'm a product guy, man. So I would love to be able to give a product demo to everyone listening to this podcast to really make it
Hmm.
super tangible as well, to explain how AI can do a full automation of those legal workflows. Because that's also how I'm training my sales team. Like every first session, every discovery meeting with a potential client, dive into the product straight away. So the advice I would give to the audience, as soon as you're serious about procuring an AI solution, doesn't need to be a legal AI solution, but just in general an AI solution. Never believe the marketing slides, never believe the sales talk. Like ask to see the product immediately and challenge the product on the spot. Like bring your own documents, prompts, scenarios. Like verify within that first meeting whether the AI solution you're looking at is actually working for your business case and use cases. I think that's key, and that's what we advise to all of the prospects we're talking to. Yeah.
Hmm. No, that's really awesome, man. I really appreciate you joining, Ruben. It's been a really fun conversation, really interesting. And I know you're very busy. Congratulations on your next round raise and all the success, man. I really, rooting for you guys and love to continue the conversation as you continue to expand and grow, man. Love to have you back at some point.
Thank you. Amazing. Really enjoyed it. Have a nice day, Nick.
Absolutely, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Robots of Red Tape. I really hope you're having a wonderful day.